Mount Everest is the highest point on Earth. This is a fact. However, it is not necessarily the tallest mountain, because that depends on your definition. Yes, if you measure the distance from the sea level to the top, Mount Everest is indeed the tallest, at 29,035 feet. But if we choose to measure the total elevation, even the part that is underwater, the tallest mountain in the world is Mount AKUH. From the bottom of the sea, it is 32,696 feet in all. Sometimes I wonder if the way we talk about mountains carries over to the way we think about people too. Often we can only see the titles and the achievements on the surface, so it's easy to assume that everyone started from the same place, and that those with the most visible peaks have done the most, and in some cases that may be true. But perhaps we should try to be the types of people who can appreciate the stupendousness of Mauna Kea. We should try to gaze below the sea level, recognizing that people begin climbing from different places. Some of us may not get to the top of Mount Everest. We may not seem the tallest. But in fact, we may have climbed higher. We may be the tallest.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So thanks for doing this.
No problem at all.
Okay, so what we do is usually we start off from the basics.
Okay.
We're going to start from your genesis. Where were you born?
So I was born in Karachi.
Okay. And how many siblings do you have?
I have one sister who is elder than me and a brother who is younger than me. So I'm a middle child. Yeah, you can imagine.
How was it being a child?
It was okay. Sometimes it has its own perks because you are protected, but sometimes you feel neglected. But it was good.
You weren't chota, were you?
No, I wasn't. I had a chota. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was your childhood like? What kind of a kid were you?
I was a pretty obedient one. I was the favorite of my teachers, and I think I was a pretty obedient one, and I think I regret some part of it. I thought I could have been more naughtier and I could have done some stuff, but I think I was the obedient one.
Okay. And which school did you go to?
I went to Chennai Islamia Public School. It's in Karachi, and it is a pretty good school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you went there to do matriculation?
Yes, I did my matriculation.
When did you decide that biology is something that you're going to study, not engineering or whatever?
It's basically the 8th grade, at which point I decided to pursue biology, basically because of my own interest in the natural things. At that time, obviously, I didn't know about medicine and neurosurgery, but I was more attracted towards the natural stuff.
Okay, and then when did medicine come in?
So medicine came into play during my intermediate when I started talking to people about my career guidance, and I met a couple of people who from the medical side and a couple of people from the engineering side, and I thought that my interest is more towards the medicine, and also my mother had a major role in deciding this. She always wanted me to become a neurosurgeon. Initially, I thought maybe I could do it, but I wasn't sure. But then gradually, naturally, I developed my interest toward it.
So once you were done with your matriculation, where did you do your intermediate from?
Oh yeah, that's a very interesting story. I'm glad you asked. So as you know, the system of the Karachi, you have the merit system. It's a centralized system where your matric scores count, and you automatically get a merit list. So in that merit list, I got into Adamji, but it was a government college, and there is not much academics going on there, and you just have to study by your own. And my dad wanted me to go to a private college, and he also got me registered in some of the colleges, the top-notch colleges, which have high, the curriculums, and the fee structure is very strong. So I stood against my dad, and I decided to go to the Adamji, and it was again a very, very rough day for me because I had made up my mind that no, I don't want to waste your money on the private colleges because the exam is central, and I know I can do it. I don't want to go to the private colleges, and my dad was very angry at me. He didn't talk to me for like a couple of days, and it was a pretty rough day. But then when my result when my result came for the part 1 and then part 2, and I scored alhamdulillah A1 in both of the exam, and then he was like, maybe I was right. So yeah, I am glad that I stood against at that time. Yeah.
And how was med school life for you?
Med school life was amazing. I had excellent friends, and I'm still in contact with them. Obviously, they are spread out all over the world, but I had the best time of my life in my medical college.
Amazing. And where did you do your internship or house job from?
So after my MBBS, I started my house job at JPMC, Jinnah Postgraduate Medical Center. So I joined at 9 a.m. and I resigned at 11 a.m. Yeah, because there was a lot of patients, but there were a lack of resources and people. I'm sure that there are good people everywhere, but the majority were not loyal to their duties. They were not taking their own responsibilities, and they were just like passing time. So I got pretty frustrated by that, and right away I decided that I cannot be part of it.
How did you go home after that?
It was a pretty tough day. I can still remember because my parents were excited that he is going to, into the practical life and everything. And then I went at 9 a.m. and then came back around 11:30ish. So my mom was like, "What happened? Everything okay?" I was like, "No, I cannot do it." So it was a pretty rough day for me. So dad came and then scolded me, obviously. But I had made up my mind that no, I cannot do that. and then getting into AKUH was itself a good story. Actually, I started preparing for my USMLE Step 1, and meanwhile my friend came and he said that AKUH has started its induction program for internship. So would you be interested? I said no, I don't want to do it in Pakistan, and I just want to give my steps and do something else. So he said, okay, I'm just going to fill my form, and I have bought one for you. I have paid money for it. Just fill it and I'll submit it. So I gave him the form and he submitted it, and unfortunately he didn't get into it and I did. So yeah. So then I thought that maybe it's a sign from the nature, and so I decided to do my internship. And yes, it was a very good decision because it changed my life. AKUH, has done wonders, as you yourself are witness of it.
Was it through internship that you decided that neurosurgery was it, or was it after that because you've done medical officership here as well?
Yes, it was before internship that I was confused among 3 fields. It was general surgery. Among general surgery, I was more inclined towards trauma. It was orthopedics and neurosurgery. So I was confused in 3. All 3 were dynamic, trauma involved in emergencies and all. So I took these 3 rotations in my internship at AKUH, and I rotated in all of them. I experienced in ORs, in clinics, and then when I rotated in neurosurgery, I just loved it. I never wanted to go home while I was even doing the ward work. I was enjoying it, and at that moment I decided, maybe my mom was right. I am made for this. Nice. So yeah, that was the story.
Once you were done with your internship, you continued here as a medical officer.
Yes.
And then you were inducted as a resident.
Yes.
How was that?
It was a pretty roller coaster ride because it is still competitive, but at the time I applied for neurosurgery, it was pretty competitive. We had 33 applicants at the time I applied, and I had my friends here, my senior colleagues here, and they were all like, but there's 50-50 chance because some of the applicants are from different institutes, have already done 1 or 2 years of neurosurgery, and you don't have that much experience, plus your research is not that strong, and you are not an AKUH MBBS graduate, so you should look other options as well. So I was pretty okay. I started studying for my steps again, and I went to US and for my electives, and during that time I had some resources in neurosurgery here, and an interview was already done by that time. And I asked them, if you are taking me, I'll come back. Otherwise, I'm going to sit in. Yeah, I'm not coming back. So they asked me, no, you come back. So I had, that edge.
And how was the residency? The whole
residency was pretty rough in the beginning. As you may know, that the first 2 years of residency are really hectic, and you don't see your parents, you don't see your home, you don't get home food, and all that. So pretty rough initial 2 years, but then it grows into you and you start accommodating and adapting. So and then it was lovely. The seniors are amazing. You have some kind of power, but still you are reportable to your consultants. But you have a lot of power, and you do the majority of the surgical work and not the ward and the ER work. That is important too. But I think that can be managed if you are good at your communication skills, the leadership skills. So the last 2 years of neurosurgery were amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Mashallah, so once you were done with your residency, you were back here again.
Yes.
Now is in a sort of a semi-consultant position.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
This again, I have some kind of power, but again, I am reportable to someone, and it is good to have someone like we were talking about while we are coming here, that it is always good to have someone to look after you, and someone you should talk to about your career, about your future plans, about your family, so that he has an overall look on you like the eagle's eye view. So it's lovely to be a fellow.
You must have say are also married.
Yes.
You have a small baby.
Yes.
And how has that been? When did you get married, and how has life been?
Yeah. So I got married in my second year of training, and it was lovely. Yes, and I have a beautiful daughter. Her name is Isha, and yes, it changed. It made me more emotional than I was before. Neurosurgery, kills all the emotions in you, and then I got married, so there was an emotional roller coaster ride. Yeah, and I have a lovely wife, and she supports me. My parents and my wife, they all support the kind of hectic routine I have. So they all understand, and they are not as demanding as other maybe. So they are pretty understanding.
3 more questions probably. One, that if somebody, supposedly I'm applying, I'm a year 1 resident.
Yeah.
There's this misconception probably, or this conception that neurosurgery, I agree, it's a very competitive field, but can anybody apply? Can anybody have the ambition to become a neurosurgeon?
If you are interested in neurosurgery, you will find your way. It's not impossible. Even if you are from any medical college, you can get into AKUH, provided that you are really interested in it, you are passionate about it, and you make your way. Because to come into AKUH, it's purely merit based. There is no sifarish, there is no parchi. It's completely merit based. So if you are interested, you have some thing in your CV, you should definitely apply, and you have you have the same chances of getting into it as anybody else. So yeah.
And is there something in my CV that I should have before I apply? So how much research counts? How much does doing electives count? And how much does my passion count?
So people do come to me and ask for the similar questions. So I tell them that broadly you can divide the getting into AKUH system into 3 or 4 components. Number 1 is obviously your academics. So you have your MBBS in good grades, and then you should have your research. So a couple of research, and even if they are not published, but you are at least attached to some research projects, and you have something in the pipeline, so that have its own merits and marks in your. And then there are ethical and other issues that you should be aware of, that what to do in certain situations. So these couple of things do count, and then overall composure, overall your passion, your approach towards your future goals, that should be clear in your mind. Because when they take interviews, they see you as a whole person. They don't only see your academics, they also see your research, your overall goals, and overall personality, the way if you can adapt to the lifestyle neurosurgery has. So it's not just the academics. So people usually focus on that and they just get good grades. No, that's not it. That is just one part of it. You should have research, and you should have clear goals, and you should have a good approach towards it, and always have mentors. Talk to people who are in the field. Maybe they are difficult to catch up, but it's not impossible. And if you are interested in it, you will find your way out. Yeah, and have multiple mentors. You just don't need one mentor. You can have one mentor for your research thing and one mentor for your academic thing, and just talk to them and find what you want.
So from your story, we find out that you've been very resilient. How has being resilient played for you?
So far, I have been resilient at 2 points. One was the intermediate, at the time of the intermediate when I stood and went to Adamji, and then the second time at the time of my house job. So both have played well so far. But you know that you should have clear goals, as I said, and if you know you can do it, you can do it. I must tell you that I was discouraged at multiple points in my career, and I never listened to them. If I begin from my FCPS part 1, so I start right after my house job, I started doing a medical officer thing at AKUH, and part 1 was like within 2 or 3 months. And it was pretty hectic being a medical officer, and people said that you won't get passed, you won't pass it if you are doing a medical officership. And no, I said I can do it, and alhamdulillah I did it. And then at the time I was giving my step 1 during my internship, so people were, it's impossible, no one has ever attempted giving a USMLE step 1 during and alhamdulillah I did it. And again then during my residency I gave my step 2 CK and CS during my residency, and alhamdulillah I have been through all of them in my first attempt. And that's the point I want to focus on, and I want to deliver this message to my juniors that
nothing is impossible.
Yeah, nothing is impossible, and if you really want it, you will get it, provided that you put your best efforts and don't listen to people who discourage you. Always find a good positive energy around you. Talk to people who have done it and not those who failed to do it or who didn't even attempt to do it. So yeah, talk to people who did it or who tried to do it. So that is my message.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. No problem.
I'm sure people have learned a lot from listening to you, from how
I hope so. I hope so.
How much you've worked hard for the position that you are in right now. A lot of duas for you, and
Thank you.
You'll do great in future.
Thank you. Thank you so much.